Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. For those of you who've been with me from the very beginning, you very well may recognize this park as the one that I used to shoot some of my cooking videos in before I got my wheels while Glowmobile 1 was being converted. Anyhow, today I'm doing a video that's quite a departure from the typical videos that I do, which would be tours or interviews or other topics. Today I'm going to talk about something that happened to me. And I gave it a lot of thought, debating back and forth. Do I want to do this video? Do I not want to do it? But I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and after she shared her experience with me, I decided, I need to do this video. So come on, and we'll do some deep diving into a topic that's kind of controversial, but I think needs to be addressed. So come on, let's go ahead and we'll get into it. The topic I'm going to be talking about today is profiling, actually racially profiling. And it's something I think happened to me at a Marriott hotel in Palm Desert not that long ago. I'm going to share what happened to me and let you decide if I'm correct or if I'm mislabeling what happened to me. But I recently talked to a friend of mine who's in her 70s, and she was telling me about how she was looking for camp hosting jobs and other positions this summer. She's a full-time nomad. And everything would go great. When she would apply, she'd get responses and people would be interested. Oh yes, you sound perfect, because she has a lot of experience in a number of different areas. So she really would be the perfect candidate. And everything would go great until they would notice, they would say, oh, by the way, you didn't give us your date of birth. As soon as she'd give them her date of birth, which she had deliberately left off the applications, all of a sudden the whole tone would change. They would decide, oh, we're going to go with a different candidate, even though they had been seriously in discussion with her, talking about when she was going to start. But as soon as she'd give them her date of birth, everything would change. So that's profiling. And when she told me, but that's profiling based on age. When she told me about that, I decided, you know what, I really needed to share my experience also. About maybe it's been a month or two now, I was at a Marriott. Actually, I'll go ahead and name it. It's the Marriott Shadow Ridge in Palm Desert. And when I went to check in, I was told by the clerk that there was a incidental. They had to put a hold on my credit card for incidentals, and it was $250 hold, which I thought was kind of high. Now, I know sometimes there's a deposit or something when you go into a hotel or even when you rent a car. But when he said $250, I said, well, first of all, I'm not going to charge anything, so I don't need to have a card for incidentals, because I'm not going to charge anything. Because he had said it's incidentals in case you want to charge anything. Then when I said that, he said, well, actually, it's a security deposit. And I still thought, well, $250 is really high, but you know what? And he says, it's a hold, we won't charge it, but it is a hold on your card. So, that's $250 of credit that you cannot use on your card. So that's a financial transaction. So, you know what? I decided, I'm just going to go with it. I know it's a financial transaction, but he's not going to charge anything. So I just didn't feel like the hassle. So I said, okay. But just as I was saying, okay, I heard the young man who was checking someone in next to us say to them, oh, and your deposit or your hold is going to be $100. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're charging me $250 as a hold and they're $100. So I turned to the young man who was dealing with me and I asked him, I said, how come they're only being charged $150 or their hold is $100 rather, and mine is $250? He goes, oh, they're probably just staying a day or so. It's, we charge $50 a day up to $250, and you're staying, over 5 days, and they're only staying, I'm sure, for the weekend. I said, okay. But as he and I are talking, again, I overhear the young man next to us who's checking in the people next to us say, oh, and you're checking out, and he gives a date they're checking out. They weren't staying for the weekend, they were staying for 5 days. So their deposit, based on what I was told, should have been $250 also. So I turned back to him and I said, they're checking out on such and such a date, so they should be charged a $250 too, if what you're telling me is true. And he looked like a deer in the headlights. He didn't know what to say. So I said, you know what, go ahead and check me in, and I will take this up with the general manager and find out what's going on here. So I go over to speak with the general manager. I asked a young lady at the concierge desk if she could call the general manager out. I wanted to speak with the general manager. So she tells me, she says, well, I don't know if he's here. And so I asked her, so where is his office? Well, it was like 2 doors down. I said, well, how about going over there and checking and see if he's in? So she says, oh, okay. So she goes over and she's waiting. I'm waiting about 10 minutes or so. She comes back and she tells me he's on the phone. So I told her, I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you find out how long he'll be on the phone? Because she'd said, I don't know how long he'll be. So at this point, I'm waiting 10 minutes, 15. It seemed like about 20 minutes. Maybe it wasn't that long, but that's how long it seemed. And finally, I pulled out my card from Glorious Life on Wheels, and I gave it to another person at the concierge area. And I told them, our customer service, and I said, you know, could you just give this to the general manager and let him know that I tried to give him an opportunity to address a situation that I think is pretty serious, and he didn't have time for it. He's on the phone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discuss it on my channel, and I'll be here a week. If he wants to discuss it after that, we can talk about it. Well, by the time I got down to my room to go into my room, I saw there was a flickering light that I had a message on my phone. And I thought it was just, a message them trying to, welcome you and sell you something, which is what often happens when you go there. And a few minutes later, as we're unpacking the bags, 2 gentlemen come to the door and they introduce themselves. And one was from customer service. One is, I don't know, I forget really where they were from, but one was dressed rather professionally and the other was more casually. And he told me, he said, well, you know what, you understand that you had a problem and when you were checking in, and we'd like to see if we can help you with it. Now, all of a sudden, they're Johnny on the spot, want to help. So I asked him, I said, are you the general manager? He said, no, I'm not. He's not here. Now, mind you, a few minutes ago, he was there. But I didn't say anything. I just said, well, you know what, we're going to be here a week, so I'm sure he'll have time in a whole week if he wants to talk to me to do so. And he was trying to convince me to tell him. I said, I don't want to tell this story several times. I want to tell it one time to the person who has the authority to address the problem and explain what's the policy here. Well, about 10 minutes later, my phone rings. And sure enough, it's the general manager. And the general manager is telling me, he understood I had a problem. He'd love to resolve it. So I told him what happened. And I told him, I said, you know what? This sounds very much to me like racial profiling, because I'm black, they were white, there's no other differences. I was dressed very professionally because I had just come from a meeting. They were dressed casually in flip-flops and, beach wear. I said, so it's not that I look like a bum. Plus, in addition, I forgot to mention this earlier in this video. I had stayed at this Marriott resort probably in the last 10 years, maybe 15, 20 times, I don't know. But we used to go there several times a year up until COVID, and this was our first time returning. But we would go there for holidays, for celebrations, for birthday. So I'd been there many, many times. I was a good customer, so they should have had a record that I'm not someone who's a wild partier who would destroy things in the room. So I told him, I said, I don't understand why you would charge me this amount for a security deposit and charge the other people a fraction. I'd like to know what your policy is on this. And then he was like, oh, it's not a security deposit. It's not a security deposit. I said, well, that's what your young man at the desk said. So you're telling me he doesn't know what he's charging people for or what he's putting a hold on their card? Oh, it's not a security deposit. We don't charge a security deposit. Well, yeah, yeah, the young man said it was. But anyhow, and I told him I thought this was racial. Oh, no, it's not racial profiling. I said, well, can you explain to me then why I was charged, or I had my card hold on it for $250 and the other couple only had a charge or a hold for $100? And he said, well, I don't really know what the policy is, so I'll have to get back with you. I said, you're the general manager and you don't know what the policy is? I'll have to talk with someone in some department, he said, and I'll get back with you. I said, well, why don't you do that? And when you do, I'd like to see a copy of the policy. Well, we're unpacking, and 30 minutes later, I get a knock on my door. And who's at my door? The general manager, who first was on the property, then wasn't on the property, and now he's back on the property. So I don't know, you figure that one out. And he tells me, oh, you know what, I just happened to be in the area. I was taking my wife shopping in the area and I thought I'd swing over. Now, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. But anyhow, he comes in and I'm asking him, he says, I just want to be your point person. If you have any concerns or issues here, I want to share them, take care of them. And, I want to be your contact person. And he gives me his card. And I said, well, the only thing that I really need from you is I need a copy of the policy that explains what you do and how you determine to charge this hold on people's credit cards. When I checked in, I got nothing in writing showing that there was a $250 hold on my card. When I checked out, there was nothing in writing saying that a hold had been released. It did say it had a zero balance. So these holds, whatever they're doing it for, security deposit, whatever, they're not, or at least in my case, they gave me no evidence that they'd even done this. So it's like a ghost transaction. I believe that it's a ghost transaction because they don't want it in writing so you can actually verify and compare who they're charging or putting holds on based on who you are. But anyhow, I asked him for a copy of the policy and he told me he couldn't give me a copy of the policy, that it was an internal document and he could not give it to me. So I said, you're doing a financial transaction on my credit card and you're not willing to give me a copy of the document that spells out why you're doing this? He said, well, that's not a financial transaction. It's not a financial transaction. I said, it is a financial transaction. You went into my credit card, you put a hold on it for a certain amount, which means I had that much less available credit. That is a financial transaction. And he just refused to acknowledge that it was a financial transaction. I'm sorry, there's a plane flying over since we're in a park, but anyhow, so he said he would get back with me with some more information because I'm still asking more depth about the policy. Can you give it to me verbally? So all he could say was, well, we don't racially profile, and he could not tell me, and he would not tell me why I was charged $250, they were charged $100. Well, a couple of days later, he did telephone me, and he left a message. And in the message, he just said, you know what, we were consistent with our policy, and we do not racially profile, and I hope you have a nice day. So he refused to give me a copy of the policy, refused to tell me why I was charged $250, why the other couple was charged $100. So I was left to come to my own conclusions, and my conclusion is that I was racially profiled. Profiling, I looked up the definition, is basically when you make a decision about a person, it's kind of like a stereotyping. You make a decision about a person based on characteristics such as, skin color, either race, age, gender, some other thing that has nothing to do with either their skills or the content of their character, but based on their physical characteristics. And I believe that's what happened to me. So I'm calling out Marriott. If anyone from Marriott is watching this video, give me a call. Or you have my number in your file at Marriott Shadow Ridge in Palm Desert. So give me a call, and if you want to hopefully explain to me why I was charged $250 or a hold of $250, and the other couple who were staying 5 days and should have also had a hold of $250 only had a hold of $100. If any of you have been profiled, would you make a note in the comment and share it? I'm interested in hearing that. Oh, he did mention another thing. He said, well, everyone does this. I worked at Hilton, I worked at here. Everyone does this. Well, and I thought to myself, Marriott is the biggest hotel chain or company in the world, from my understanding. So if they're doing this, is this a dirty little secret in the hotel industry? Is everyone doing this? Is Marriott doing this at all of their properties? But anyhow, that's why I'm sharing this. And as I said earlier, it was prompted by my friend telling me how she was profiled based on age and determination that she couldn't do certain jobs, clearly based on her age. And it's just wrong. It is just wrong. And I decided I was going to disclose it and share it with you. So I hope, it didn't come out as a rant, but I wanted to tell you what happened and get your input as to what your opinion. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I was racially profiled? Or am I wrong? Anyhow, next week we'll be back to our more typical format and more typical content. I have, oh my gosh, the cutest little Volkswagen bug. It's a little Volkswagen bug that Sergio from Henry's Upholstery in La Habra completely chopped up, put together. Him and his dog Homer are in this video, and you're just going to love it. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time. May your journeys be filled with joy and blessing. See you next time. Bye.